This particular unit menu, it looks really full. Teachers want to know, what does this look like in the classroom? I don't know if you could see behind me, but look at that. Match up the formula and the name. Good morning. It is Friday, and you're probably expecting a week of vlogging. And while I do really enjoy doing the vlogs, one of the things that I've been kind of feeling was like the vlogs are just incredibly long, and maybe one of the things that my viewers really like would be to see smaller clips as far as things that I'm doing in the classroom. So in an effort to bring you something that you would like to see, I am going to spend a little bit more time talking and showing you some of the things that I did this week, and this will be a much shorter clip than usual. And either way, I would really like to know what you think, because my goal is always to inspire you to try different lessons with your students and to make a big impact in their lives as far as how they learn science. So please feel free to leave a comment below to let me know if you do like this new style of video. That way I can bring that to you in the future. So this week was all about ionic bonding, and I focused primarily on using a unit menu to do this. But if you remember, one of the things that I always like to do with my students is spend some time just reflecting on the experience in my classroom. So in order to do that, I gave my students a Google form when we first did our unit menu on significant figures. And I think it was significant figures and measurement, actually. And one of the things that my students said was that they didn't like so much how they felt like it was, I guess, a little bit more individualized, and they wanted more opportunities for them to work with each other. So let me show you what I did with my unit menu to make it a little bit more interactive for my students. My unit on ionic bonding, so we focus primarily on modeling, naming, and formula writing. And remember, unit menus are just basically a bunch of choices that the students can kind of pick from in order to learn the material. So every unit menu always includes the title, where it goes in their binder, and then the learning goals or objectives for the unit menu. And these are the goals that they're ultimately going to be assessed on when they go through and they take their quiz. This particular unit menu, it looks really full, but it was only because they had so many options. They had to work through each section per day. So this is actually a 3 days worth of a unit menu, but they did have a buffer day where they could catch up and review. So that was another modification that I made because they felt that they were kind of running out of time with the last one. So I gave them a buffer day to kind of let them review and work on anything that they wanted to work on. And then their quiz is actually today. So the other thing that I changed was that the students wanted it to be a little bit more collaborative. So to do that, I added a team activity where the students could work together. It's essentially a POGLE, where the student, which stands for Process Oriented Guided Inquiry Learning, where the students were able to work through how to name and formula write for ionic compounds. They were then required to highlight the different transition metals and other metals that have more than one possible oxidation state. They were then allowed to use something called quizzes, where they could basically use their Chromebooks to answer a bunch of questions and then play against each other. So that was a competition. And then finally, they were allowed to complete a partner puzzle. And so the partner puzzle basically allowed them to review how to name and formula write by matching names and formulas, and then also by making valid formulas on their own. So these are all different options that I used to make the unit menu a little bit more collaborative, and I'm going to survey the students today to see what they think as well. Teachers want to know, what does this look like in the classroom? What are the students doing? What am I doing? And quite frankly, it looks something like this. Each kid is working on their section of the unit menu while I'm walking around and assisting them with all questions. And you can see there are a bunch of different activities that are going on at the same time, whether the kids are working on the puzzle, whether they're looking at videos and taking notes, whether they're working on a team activity. It really just depends on, what section they're on and how they've progressed through the content thus far. A lot of teachers sometimes get nervous that maybe it's too quiet in the classroom, and there should be more conversation. And while there absolutely will be at certain times, sometimes it will be a little quiet, sometimes it'll be a little noisy. It really just depends. And so that's why it's helpful, I think, to divide your classroom into a section where the students can work on puzzles and divide, the other section for students to kind of, complete their videos or work on a worksheet or do some whiteboarding. So I think it's really up to you deciding how you can kind of group your students, in terms of what activity they're doing has been really helpful. That way I had a much easier time to address any questions and basically just to help them as they go through the content. So you may have some questions as far as how I set all of this up in my classroom. So let me show you what I typically do. And I think I showed this in another video, but for anybody that's new around here, I thought you would appreciate this. So I made all of these signs, and basically I attached them to a, I guess it's like a plastic picture frame from Dollar Tree. So this, for example, was my puzzle station where the students can work on different puzzles. And then the puzzle, just so you know, is actually a Tarsia puzzle, right? So this is a Tarsia puzzle that I made, and the students, like I can show you, I don't know if you can see that very well, but they can match up the formula and the name, and then they can also have the opportunity, like they have different pieces of formulas, so they have to then make valid formulas using this as well. This was an easier version because if you notice on the outside here, there's nothing written. You can make it more difficult by having answer choices that are there that that won't be used, so that can make it kind of tough. I did have a separate version for that, and I did have quite a few students actually do it and do it well, which I was really impressed with. It was very good. And then usually when the students finish, I walk around with these answer keys, so I just will give this to the students as an answer key, or I'll check it myself. It just depends. If they're struggling, I'll also kind of walk around with that just to give them some hints. Maybe I'll kind of just move one piece for them and see if that kind of helps them along. So that was good. And then they also had something that had to do with highlighters. So I attached this sign to one of the picture frames. And then finally, for my friendly competition, I had this sign. So these signs come in handy just because it helps me to know what the students are working on when they get up and go to the lab station. Also, anytime you give your students an opportunity to get up and walk around the classroom, I just love that because I just feel like they sit all the time. And, I think it's really important to get them, up and moving. So that's one way to do it. So then the other modification that I made to this unit menu was the students in the survey said that they said that they felt like they didn't have enough time to do the formative assessments that I was doing. So what I tried to do this time around is have the students take the formative assessments all at the same time. Typically, I don't like to do that because I feel like they all master the content at different times, but what kind of worked, I felt, was that they took the formative assessment for the content from the day prior, and they took it at the end of the class period that following day. So what I mean is, like, for example, like the first day, they were working on modeling of ionic, oh, I almost fell off the chair. They were working on modeling of ionic bonding. And then the following, they had homework, obviously, that, that was required that they had to do. So then the following day, they were able to come in and ask questions and check answer keys and blah, blah, blah. But then at the end of that class period, assuming they got all their questions answered, they were good to go for the formative assessment. I think that went much better. But again, I'm not going to really know until I get those survey results, and I'm going to have them do that today during their class period. Today they have their quiz. So, and then because it's a delayed opening today, because we're having quite a bit of weather, I don't know if you could see behind me, but look at that. Quite a bit of weather. We actually had an early D yesterday, which I was really, really surprised about. But yeah, so today the periods are a little bit shorter, so I'm definitely going to have to get them to do the survey and then get them to take the quiz. But either way, it'll be fine. They'll have more than enough time. The quiz is very, very short. So with that said, that is pretty much my week on unit menus. Remember, unit menus are just great for you and for your students. You can interact with your students more. You can walk around. You can assist them. You can really help them to know whether or not they know the material. And I am fortunately in a one-to-one district, so it makes things a lot easier as far as finding online resources and stuff, but If you're questioning, how do I get all of these resources? One thing I would suggest is if hopefully you have a professional learning community, a PLC, where you can work with other teachers and they can help you to find different resources. And then if all else fails, of course, you could go to, Teachers Pay Teachers or something and purchase different lessons for that as well. Ooh, that's the bell. Still pretty early. It's about 7:30, so I have some time. So next week I actually have conferences. So I am going to spend some time now getting ready for those conferences. And then I think one of the good things about having these shorter posts is that I will also be vlogging a little bit more next week so that you can kind of see how I prepare for parent-teacher conferences. So I hope you have a great weekend. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you were able to kind of pick up some tips and tricks along the way that will help you create better unit menus. And I will be posting a unit menu template for you to use should you want to start incorporating unit menus and student choice in your classroom. Have a great weekend. Thanks so much for watching to the end of this video. I hope you found the information helpful as you teach science to your students. I really don't want to lose touch, so please make sure that you hit both like and subscribe so you get notifications every time I post a new video, and I'll catch you later.